What's up, everyone? Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training. Once again, back at you. Another week. Thirsty Thursdays, episode 66. This is a live dog training Q&A where you ask questions about dog training and we give you the best answer that we can come up with. This is a discussion, so you're allowed to put in your opinion. Whatever you want to say it. Whatever comes to your mind, feel free to ask. You can ask as many questions as you like. Don't worry, you won't annoy me. I answer all the questions. No question is a dumb question. That's very important. So, feel free to ask some questions. And cheers. I hope everyone out there is having a wonderful Thursday. As I did, it's a little warmer up here. What's up, Lise? How are you? It's actually, I think it's in the 20s, which is warm for up here as of late. So, who knows? I know a lot of people probably want to talk about Chief, that German Shepherd that's been in the last couple of videos. We'll talk about him a little later on, but yeah. Hi, Christy. How are you? That's good. I'm glad you're doing well, Lise. You guys look like you're doing well. You always look like you guys are doing well. That's a fact. Good. So if any of you guys are watching now, your question does have the priority. I have questions to answer, but they are ones where I can get to at any time. So if you guys are watching and have questions, shoot. Cheers, Amy. All right, I'll answer a question. Okay. First question comes from Kelsey. One of my dogs gets very dominant. When I try to correct her, she tries to nip at me and is overall very dominant towards my other two dogs. She listens to her commands, but if I try to grab her to move her, she tries to nip. Any way to work on her dominant behavior? Yes, there is a way. So first rule of thumb that I have going forward with all of, I'll get to your question in a minute, Christian. Thank you for your question. But first rule of thumb is, that's a challenge. Obviously, if the dog is nipping at you when you're trying to do anything that isn't causing the dog harm, but sort of just asking to get the dog to do what you want, and the dog's challenging you, then the dog thinks it has the upper hand, and you must change that. Okay, and you can change that in a different roundabout ways. For one, how much the dog is allowed to get away with, it plays a big part on it. So evaluate not just that one area where you have trouble, but overall every interaction you have with the dog. Is the dog dictating more than you? Does the dog sort of say, I get to do this when I want, and I don't really think you can get me to do what I don't want? Something as simple as letting them out of the door, or the way that they walk on leash, or how many times you got to tell them something that they must do. Start adding things in the dog's life that the dog does without you telling them 4 or 5 times. The goal should be 1 time. Okay, we'll give it we'll give it another chance in case the dog doesn't hear you. But when you want something, it can be just as simple as, say the dog is sniffing in the kitchen, and you don't want the dog in the kitchen while you're cooking. Keeping the dog out of the kitchen. Keeping the dog out of the kitchen is a simple but effective, humbling boundary. Or keeping the dog from assuming that it's okay to get on the couch. That is a humbling, yet simple boundary. And I say humbling because the the more consistent you are with those boundaries, the more likely it is that the dog listens to you when it really matters, like a resource aggression or that dominant behavior when you grab them by the collar or something like that. That'll start to uh, improve because you've put your foot down on one rule or a couple of rules. And so observe their behavior after you've enforced simple rules, but the dog reach a point where the dog actually respects what you want. Then you'll start to see a difference. Now, that doesn't mean once the dog respects it that it can go back to doing what it wants. This should be something that happens for a long, long time, right? Until the dog really, really understands that it has to listen to you and it can't show dominant behavior over you. Because dogs will run your life if you allow them to run your life. All right, so you run their life because you gave them a nice, cozy, warm home to chill in. Thank you for your question. I'm going to be sitting a GSD, 4 years old. Can you tell me a little bit about what you know about the breed? German Shepherd dog? Is that GSD, German Shepherd dog? Okay. The breed is a protective breed and a herding breed. So that means at the worst, it's going to be a controlling dog, a dog that is independent, a dog that is pretty tough to get into its head, a dog that's going to be cautious, could be cautious, mm, but a dog that's going to be pretty dang smart, easy to train. But when someone knocks on that door, it's hard to get in their head. Not all German Shepherds, just the ones I work with. Because I wouldn't be working with German Shepherds if they didn't do that. But I probably work with the majority, the most breed that I see all the time. German Shepherds. So keep a leash on the dog first few days. Take it from there. Thanks for your question. Jack freaks out at any beeping noises, like escape mode level. Gonna tear down the door. Any ideas on how to keep him used to it? He struggles even with the e-collar, when he hears a noise like this. Yeah, I mean, you have to do some work on desensitizing him to it. Um, I would up the level of the working level in which you are working with when those beeping sounds are present, so that he really has to use it. Listen, if he's listening too, now that's really good. If he's actually taking direction from you, that's the first step in getting him over it. But you gotta hold him accountable to it. You gotta stay in the mindset of, this isn't gonna hurt you. Let mama show you. let me show you that this is okay, but you got to listen. So again, you may have to work 10 levels, 20 levels higher than your normal working level in order to get through to him in a very effective way, you know? And you can work on this, you can pull up uh, beeping noises on YouTube, you know what I mean? So that you can kind of anticipate it, and the very second he starts to get stressed or whatever, put him right back in the down or reinforce down, and sort of kind of work on it like that. I would start off very slow, see how he does, and then sort of just continue to work on it. But he, in times of uncertainty, so with the beeping makes him uncertain, right? Like he's got to do something. That's your chance to make him certain with your leadership and guidance, which means giving him something to do in those moments. So, thank you for your question. Hope Jack's doing all right. Cheers. My coworker was walking her dog the other day, and her dog was attacked by another dog coming out of a house. Sounds like the owner wasn't strong enough to restrain the dog, and it took off after my coworker's dog. Her dog is okay. Had some puncture wounds, and overall, he's going to be okay. I'm just curious if you have any insight as to why a dog might attack like that in the first place. Yeah. So there's a lot of dogs that will sort of act more aggressively on their territory or around their territory. Obviously no excuse for that. It's still bad. I'm sorry that happened. But that's just what happens. So that's why I send people home with that doggy don't. And tell your friend, your coworker, she may need to invest in that doggy don't, so that situations like that don't happen again. Because now the dog she's walking is going to be on edge, and for good reason. Dog had no choice in the matter but to defend itself. So, you need to walk with something that you can deter other dogs from coming up to your dog, because that's what causes leash aggression, leash anxiety, all that crazy stuff. So we got to protect our animals when they're on leash. It's a very intimate thing for a dog, and it's very easy that dogs can fall into insecurity. That is why I teach the walk the way that I teach the walk, and I send home everyone with a doggy don't or a pet convincer so that they can deter dogs from coming up and doing that. Okay? It will work 95% of the time. And some people might look at you like you're crazy, but so what? You're advocating for your dog. Tell your coworker, I'm sorry that happened. You can also tell her to give me a call, and I can help her out. Thanks for your question. Okay, Mandy asks, when are we getting you in here? After watching some of your dog training sessions, I believe you could benefit so much. What, in where? Where are you at? Where are you from? Let's see. Amy says, had a very interesting conversation with a person that only believes in positive training methods and BAT training. Person said e-collars were used as punishment, and it can actually make the dog more aggressive. Is that true or over dramatizing? Sorry. Also, should we be using e-collar in dog rescue if we have no assurance from the adopter that he will continue with the methods we've been using on the dog? All right. Well, e-collar as punishment. Uh, E-collars are not for punishment. They're for communicating. That's it. Prong collars are not for punishment. They're for communicating. That's it. Any tool that you can use as punishment. And some people do that, which is not right. That's when you get those dogs that when they put the e-collar on, they're a different dog. They shut down. They start shaking. They behave. You know, that's not right. The dog should not be nothing but, at the very least,
Sorry, I'm not sure.
the dog should be nothing but, at the very least, indifferent when you put the collar on. Dog shouldn't be scared, shouldn't be nervous. If you properly condition the dog to the e-collar, they won't not look forward to it. Or at least they won't care if you put it on them or not. So it's not, they're not being dramatic. They're just not being knowledgeable about it, what an e-collar can actually do. How about this? Every person that says that, ask them if they've trained more than if they've trained more than 5 dogs on an e-collar. I bet you they probably haven't even trained 2 dogs on an e-collar, maybe even 1. So they cannot speak on what an e-collar can do if you have not trained dogs on an e-collar. I have trained hundreds of dogs on the e-collar. Okay? And I've trained very dramatic dogs on the e-collar. It's not about the e-collar. I make it about me. And the e-collar is a supplement. It's an addition. I want the dog to listen to me. The e-collar helps. But ultimately, it is the human that the dog has to listen to, not the e-collar. So the tools are not the priority. You guys, the human, the relationship is the priority. Tools are just bridges so that the dog can actually take your word for it. When I say come, that means come. If you don't come, I'm going to give you a little tap on the shoulder with the e-collar. But I don't know any dog that will come to you if you're punishing them with the e-collar when they just run the other way. So, yeah. You use e-collars to communicate, not to punish. To teach, not to punish. Excuse me, to proof. I shouldn't say teach. The e-collar is there to proof what the dog already knows. Okay? So, also the e-collars that you use are very important as well. But we won't get into that. I can talk all day about it. I hope that answers your question. Excuse me. As far as the second question goes, Um, it depends on the dog. Now, listen, if you have a more stubborn dog that does need the e-collar, then uh, I wouldn't adopt a dog out to anyone else, anyone that would not be willing to continue the training or would not be willing to learn and use the e-collar correctly. That would be my approach. I don't work with anyone who is not okay with me having the option to use any tool. And most people know that before they call me. I don't remember even the last time someone called me and actually uh, said, I don't like that you use e-collars. I don't like that you use prong collars. I don't like that you blah, blah, blah. I haven't had that in a long time. I've had that. But this is why I'm so open about it. If I'm not telling you guys I'm using it, then people are going to call me and they're going to want me to, well, they're not going to want me to. I'm going to have to explain why this is good and this is good. I don't think I need to do that based on how much information and videos and all that good stuff that I put out there. So I want people to call me knowing that I work with these tools, and there are plenty of videos for you to see that they're okay, not causing harm, not being anything dramatic. When you come and pick up your dog, they will be wagging its tail, happy to see you, and they'll be wagging their tail at me. So that's what I would do. All right. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another one. Mandy, you didn't answer the question. Where you want me to go? I could possibly. I'm starting to try and get stuff lined up to go out to San Diego for a couple of seminars. So cross my fingers, everything goes well with that. Okay. We can talk about Chief in those videos. What did you guys think about that? I've had a couple of opinions, and I always welcome opinions of all kinds, shapes, and sizes. I should come to Milwaukee, man. It's long overdue. I need to set up a seminar in Milwaukee. You daggum right. It's long overdue. I need to find someone that would host me, though. I'm gonna have to put some thought into that. Jax likes his prong collar because he knows he's going out somewhere. Got compliments on how well behaved he is. Thanks again. You're welcome. I appreciate you telling us that. You sharing with us. I appreciate that. Hope Jax is doing great. Yeah, guys, it's not easy for a lot of people to control their big, energetic, young, enthusiastic animal. These tools again are just there, and they should be temporary, but they're just there to help get a good calm state of mind so people can actually walk their dogs, actually include their dogs, enjoy a walk. It's very important. All right. So yeah, I should come to Milwaukee, man. Haven't been there in a while. Good Lord. What's going on? Okay. So let's talk about Mr. Chief. So yeah, I posted on all my my social media outlets. One's on Instagram, and the other is on Facebook, and then Twitter. But no one cares about Twitter. But um, speaking of prong collar, I did have someone that openly said that they thought the prong collar was cruel. Again, I welcome all opinions. All opinions are open. All opinions are welcome. I want to hear from everyone. Doesn't matter what you think. It does. For some, it does, and some it doesn't. Um, but so, okay. So let's talk about it. Okay, Chief. I decided to put his re- rehab process online on purpose because I wanted to give people sort of an insight uh, onto what it's like. Now, Chief in particular is tougher as far as his crate aggression goes than the average tough crate aggressive dog, if that makes sense. In other words, he is way in his own head. I mean, his anxious level is pretty, pretty stacked, pretty high. Okay, it's tough to get him to, you know, be in tune with anything other than what's going on around him, and that is a result of someone not knowing how to be there for him in certain circumstances. Okay, he is very anxiety driven. His anxiety drive is very strong. You know, it overtakes his ability to take direction, which a lot of dogs come in, and that's sort of what we deal with. But his is a little bit more is a little bit higher than the average dog. So I decided to put that uh, on display so people can see. And then I put it I put a little bit of context into it because that's very important. But I wanted people to talk about it, to discuss it, and see what people thought about it. And so this is probably the biggest point that I would like to address when it comes to crate aggressive dogs. And it doesn't even have to be crate aggressive dogs. It can be, I talked to someone who had said, because the dog was resource aggressive, that the dog they defended the resource aggression because the past the dog must have been beaten in the past. This is what I want to address. Okay. Especially when it comes to something like resource aggression. But it also has something to do with crate aggression. But it's not, and this is what I was talking about. You don't always put all your chips on the dog's history. That's not going to tell you why the dog is acting the way it is acting now. Okay? And the reason why I'm so sure about this is because I've worked with dogs that do come from bad pasts, and I've worked with dogs that come from good pasts, perfect past. So, quote unquote, bad past over here, worked with those dogs. Good past over here, worked with these dogs. So these dogs, rescue, had him for over a year. First 2 years of his life, severely beaten, blah, 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 blah. These dogs over here got at 8 weeks. Uh, Loving home, never been beaten. There's not one behavior with these two dogs with two different backgrounds that they haven't shared. Not one. Okay? Dogs that come from good behavior, good past, great past, loving home, resource aggressive, severely crate aggressive, will bite the hell out of you. Dogs that have been severely beaten, resource aggressive, severely crate aggressive, will bite the hell out of you. So, there's behaviors that are very similar. Little difference. What are they? Little difference. Poquito. Okay. More dogs that come from that rescue past. The difference is some of what they're doing is because it is a fear, out of a fear response. But not all of it, just a little bit of it. But we can't forget that genetics play a big role. And genetics have to do with both sides of the coin, no matter what the past is. So you can have a genetically fearful dog, make it seem like the dog was beaten. The dog could never have been hit before, but still duck. Oh, the dog must have been beaten when the dog does this. That's what people say. Oh, he must have been beaten to death. Poor dog. When the dog does this. Nope. Dog never was hit ever. And it ducks. And it came from a perfectly bred, litter. But the difference is the dog is genetically fearful. Okay? So I don't want people to put a lot of emphasis on where they came from. Yes, it is a factor. In most it matter. Some cases it does. Most cases. Let's not allow the dog to do what it wants because you feel bad about the past that actually may not have anything to do with how the damn dog's acting now. The dog is biting you because the dog wants to bite you or thinks it's okay to bite you. All right, the teenager that comes up and slaps his mama isn't thinking hard enough about what is going to come if they do that. Because maybe there's nothing that will come. That's probably most likely it. Because if a teenager thinks there's going to be hell to pay, I bet you the teenager doesn't decide to slap his mama. So, if the dog's comfortable putting holes in people in your house, let's not making an excuse and say the dog was severely beaten. I don't think so. I think the dog is just comfortable getting what he wants. Saying, I can do this because it's convenient. You come over near me, I don't want to move, I'm going to bite you. You try and get this bone, I'm going to bite you. Oh, and by the way, anything that drops on the floor is mine, and I'm going to bite you. So that's probably the biggest point that I wanted to deal with when it came to Chief. Yes, Chief is fearful. He's a fearful dog. But my job is to, thanks, Pat, I appreciate that. My job is to diagnose how much of what he does is coming from a place of fear and that have to attitude versus uh, versus the attitude of I can do this. It has worked for me. Now let's talk about that for a second. The it has worked for me. Of course it has. Of course. Where'd my beer go? I had a beer break. Hold on. So what I'm talking about, right? The chief comes at me in the crate when as I approach the crate. In the back of his mind, it has worked for him. Of course it has. He's a big dog. Again, the average person is not going to just stand there and when that dog comes at them, I call it presents himself. The average person is just not going to stand there, just stay there. So the average person is going to do what? Go away. And that's what the dog wants. Dog wants you to go away. Get out of here. I don't want you near this crate. And if you come near this crate, I'm going to give it to you. So, if you noticed in the second video, what's the dog do? He backs up in the crate. Still barking, right? But he backs up from the door. Good first step. We have to show the dog that your attempt to manipulate the situation, that particular attempt or that style, your way, this way, lunging at the crate way, is not going to get you what you want. You might as well try something else. Now, here's what causes the uncertainty. The immovable object, which was me. When I presented myself as an immovable object, the dog said, "Oh, let me back up." And now I'm uncertain because I just gave this dog my scariest presentation. And that didn't work. He's still there. What do I do? Here comes the magic. The dog says, "What do I do?" You sit. That's it, man. It's beautiful. The dog's like, "Here I come." Roar! What do I do? Sit. Oh, that worked. Okay, let's do it. Over and over again. That's what you do. That's the rehabilitation process right there. I'm going to do it again. Here I come. I'm approaching the crate. Dog goes, "Rawr!" Then he goes, "This dude's not moving. Uh-oh. What do I do? Let me back up. What do I do? Oh, he said sit. He said it again. He sits. Then he gets what he wants. That right there is the magic right there. Being able to stay in that sort of pressure moment, right? In the being able to stay in the fire so that he can respond in a certain way you want him to. Teaching him that if I just sit, I can also get what I want, as opposed to the fear, aggressive part. So aggression is not something that is mechanical in a dog. It's a choice. It's a thought out choice. Okay? And that means they have the choice not to be aggressive as well. But they got to have someone show them that there are other ways to get to the top of the mountain besides that naughty behavior. That's where the magic happens. So when people say that Chief is afraid and he must have been beaten, and then what happened to him in that crate? Somebody must have tortured him in the crate. Possibly. I can't say. But on the other hand, he could also just be doing something that is convenient for him to do. You know, I don't really want to deal with it. This is him thinking out loud. I'm in the crate. Here comes someone. I really don't want to deal with it. I now know how to get people away. That works. Now I'm good. Leave me alone. I'm going to go back and sleep now. But they can't have people over and all that good stuff. So we have to teach him how to behave in a different way in that crate to get what he wants. You can get me away from the crate too, but you have to sit or down or be quiet. You certainly can't lunge. That's not going to do it. And I will look a dog right into the eye, right in the eye. I don't avoid eye contact ever. I look at him right in the eye and I say, sit. And I don't move my eye contact. Sit. People say you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't look dogs in the eye. Oh, what? I want every dog to respect the fact that I'm going to look in their eye and they should be the ones to do this. Right? When I first approached Chief, oh, he was looking right back at me like he wanted to kill me. Like this. And he kept his eye on me wherever I went. You know, he was looking at me, boy, it was crazy. And so I kind of think that it is a myth that people want to avoid eye contact with a dog that they don't know, or or a dog that, I don't know, is dominant or whatever. No. People by default are going to look the dog in the eye. So the dog should be used to people and that sort of pressure, because it is a certain level of pressure. The dog should also learn how to deal with that. That's my approach to it. So every dog that comes and trains with me, no matter how aggressive they are, no matter how ferocious they are, we're going to have an understanding, or they're going to get comfortable with my eye contact. That's it. So that's the Chief story. I think I covered it all. I just don't want people putting too much emphasis again on all the dogs that seem to be scared of something. You know, I had a lady, or actually, it was a family that had a dog that was scared of. There's many of them, but they're scared of the vacuum, and they had said, "Oh, the dog before it came to me must have been beaten with a vacuum." You know, no, because there's dogs that are scared of snow. There's dogs that I've trained that have been scared of snow blowers. Right, I'm saying that right. Yeah, lawnmowers, golf carts. They certainly can't be beaten by those. Actually, there's a dog that I'm training now, a border collie who is uh will try and attack the broom. And it's usually a dog that, you know, is just fearful of what the broom presents. They don't like the sound. They don't like the fact that it's kind of just going back and forth. And that's what it is. You know, nothing else but them trying to control the situation best suitable for them. And so the important part in the rehabilitating those dogs is, or any kind of controlling dog, herding dogs, or in particular. I have all herding dogs in my kennel now. I got two corgis, a border collie, and a German shepherd. They're all going to get all the technical stuff really easily because they're smart, but they're all controlling, you know, in a certain way. Those dogs. Okay, I'm not saying that all herding dogs are controlling, although it's kind of their job to be controlling. But there's obviously docile and every kind of breed, you know. So, hey, any of you guys watching, you want to interrupt me blabbering? I'm just blabbering now. You guys just ask a question if you got one, or if you want to talk about something, you can bring that up too. But this is I just talk until you guys have a question. I love this hat, by the way. It's so comfortable. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. You want to talk about that hat? This hat? I got it from the Jersey store in Green Bay. So a little crazy story. Not a crazy story, but a story about this hat. My brother has one down, and he lives down in Orlando. No, it's Deltona, which is by Orlando. And I went down there for Thanksgiving, and he had one similar. It wasn't one with the moose on there, but he had one similar. And I put it on, and I was wearing it. I wore it out to dinner, so I had this hat on. And of course, a Vikings fan wanted to come up to me and give me crap about this hat. And I'm like, out of all the fans that I could run into, I ran into a Vikings fan. Anyway, they did better than us. But Sunday, they looked like they shouldn't have been there. Just saying. All right. Anyway, if Aaron Rodgers wasn't hurt, they wouldn't have got that far. Hope there's no Vikings fans watching. But anyway, I was out with this hat on. Real quick story, then we'll get back to dogs. And man, I swear it was, I don't know if something was in the air, but I got more attention with this hat on than I ever have. You know, and I was in Florida. I was like, what, why, what's going on here? You know, and I was with my wife too, which was the other thing was weird. It was like, okay, this is odd. But anyway, I just love the way it feels on my ears. I like this like material. It's a great. I love it. Very warm. So I like wearing it. Yes, it is. I love it. I bought my other brother one because he's a Packers fan as well. I got a brother that's a Falcons fan, so I didn't buy him that one. But so we got 3 out of the 4 brothers that have a hat like this. So yeah, that's that. Oh man, I think I had missed a question from Jen. Hold on now. Let me get my stuff together here. You turn off. Off. There you go. Jen says, I love the e-collar because of the communication it allows. Our personal dogs come running when they hear a beep of the e-collar because it means fun things are in store for them, such as off-leash adventures. I also use a prong collar in certain situations. and I can have an easier time communicating with the dog. If I don't need to use the tools, I don't. But they are easier and faster methods to make progress on some tougher dogs. I appreciate you advocating for their use. There you have it, you e-collar, doubting, prong collar, hating human beings. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. All right. We adopted a new dog about 6 months ago. He's super sensitive and sweet. How many dogs you got now? How did you teach your personal dogs to ignore other dogs so they are more comfortable? He just stares at new dogs and goes for face interactions. Our other personal dogs just get dogs' body language better. Two personal dogs and one foster. All right. Do you have you heard of the dressage whip? The dressage whip is obviously a horse thing, but they sell them. I think it's like 4 foot long. Yeah, maybe 4 feet. Get you one of those, and if you don't have one, keep the dog that you're socializing on leash. Keep your dogs away until the dog that you're working is comfortable enough to go up to your dogs, enthusiastic enough to go up to your dogs. I always train or wait until, well, not every single dog, because more dogs are more social than others. Hey Sherry, how are you? You know, I just friended you on Facebook, and I was surprised that we weren't friends. Um, but I every single dog that I socialize, I always start off that way. I want my dogs. Hi. How are you? Just just quick. Does lack of early socialization play a big part in fearful behavior? Yeah, I think so. Lack of anything early will play a big. It'll leave a big question mark in the dog's future behavior. It's something as integral and important as socialization. Yes, here's what should happen in socialization. The dog should learn how to play with small dogs, smaller dogs than the dog. The dog should learn how to play with big dogs and what that can present. The dog should learn how to play with dogs that are its own size. The dog should learn how to play with dogs that are sensitive. The dog should learn how to play with dogs that are overwhelming. That's a very social dog. A very social dog can deal with everything. A very social dog can learn how to can be very beneficial because it can stand up for itself. All right, it can teach. Yeah, it can teach in different ways. It can teach the bratty, overwhelmingly, adolescent to to humble that dog, right? And it can also help that shy dog come out of the corner, So it's both sides of the spectrum. A well socialized dog can have all those things, but you have to have, that's why a good reputable dog daycare is invaluable in that regard. Play with different sizes, shapes, temperaments, all that can bring. It's very, very important for the dog to experience, to learn, and under guided supervision. That's also important. I have dogs who come in that are just super big, and just that every dog that they've encountered, that they've just been able to overwhelm very easily. And this is why I love my dogs, because they know exactly now, that, man, this is the powerful thing about nature, but nature will balance itself out. My dogs are more overwhelming with those dogs than they are the sensitive dogs. They leave the sensitive dogs alone because they can tell. Yeah, Pat, and you know what? It's super cool. It's super good to be able to have or establish a very good, I don't want to say kennel club, but like a dog club that you the more dogs that you can intimately know, you know, that you don't own, so in my opinion, when I was working at dog daycare, it was super cool because um, I knew those dogs very intimately, and that was probably over 100 dogs. I knew them to a T, their temperament, because I spent 8 hours a day with them. You know, and yes, none of them came 7 days a week, but still, over a period of 10 years, you can get to know dogs very well. Obviously, you see them from puppyhood to adulthood. And so when every dog came in, that's why our dog daycare, when I was running it, we never turned down a dog ever, because I knew exactly how to balance the dog out. If the dog was fearful, I'd put the dog in with a bunch of older, mature dogs that ignored dogs. How perfect is that? Then the dog can kind of explore, open up, and grow when it wants to. And the opposite was true. When I had a dog that came in full of piss and vinegar, I'd put them in with dogs that were in my what I would call alpha, and that just means stand their ground, be able to teach without hurting. You know what I'm saying? And so that's having that at your access was super valuable. And I don't even know that daycares even actually realize what they have when it comes to psychology, but that's a very important aspect to a dog's development and socialization. Again, you just wanna you gotta know who you're socializing your puppy with. It's just like raising a kid. You don't want them to hang out with the bad crowd. You want to know and be confident that they're hanging out with some good, well, uh, behaved children. So yeah. Okay, Sherry. When we take Wally in the car and we're at a stoplight, he occasionally will growl if a guy is standing outside on the corner. We correct him with a verbal no, and he will immediately go lay down on the floor of the vehicle. Should we be doing something differently to avoid his initial reaction? No, you're doing exactly what you should do. Just be there for him. When he growls, he's nervous, he's uncertain, and you're being there for him. So that's okay. Do exactly what you're doing. You know. Don't tell him to lay down. Now, maybe if you've gotten to a certain point, just say no, quiet, so that he can still see it, but still know that you're there, as opposed to blocking him from seeing it by making him lay down. Okay, puppy question. Bellatrix, 9 weeks now. Okay, getting up there. And she is using her mouth for everything. She is so fast, like a black mamba. We spritz her, but I know it's a band-aid. How do I deter her from biting the shoes on her feet when we walk? Just put a leash on her for now, um, and kind of control her behavior in the house. She shouldn't have free roam in the house. She should be dragging the leash, but don't expect her to not want to use them damn teeth right about now, because she wants to use her teeth because it probably feels good to her right now. So that's how they play. That's what puppies do. Just try and get her to bite the right things and not the wrong things. But at this moment, at that young age, I don't think it's that you should be able to try and teach her not to do that. Okay, obviously, when she gets older, you can definitely address that. But I know they're sharp, but that's a part of puppy's teeth. And keep a leash on her. She can't outrun a leash. Okay. Thanks for your question. Keep me updated on that puppy. Send me some pics. Hmm. So yeah, that's it. You guys have any questions? Any more questions? Because it's about that time. My husband rescued her, and we got her at 5 weeks. 4 days. Wow. That's young. That's young. All righty. Well, it's about that time, guys. I appreciate you being here. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you decided to be here with me. And for that reason, I'm thankful. I'll see you guys next week, same time. Be sure to give me a thumbs up if you liked it. We'll be here next week, 6 o'clock, episode 67. Thank you, Christy. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next week.